What is up, everyone? Brandon First, aka First Report, representing the Off the Bench Podcast Network. It is Saturday, so that means it is time for two Bs on a pod. A great way to get our Saturday started and your Saturday going as well. And of course, when I say we, I mean myself and my co-host, Coach Brandon Lupian. You can find him on Twitter at Portland76er. How are you doing today, sir?
Good morning, Mr. First. I'm doing great. I always look forward to this show. I texted you a couple of days ago, not sure if I was gonna make it because I thought honestly, I was like, I lost track of my days. Like I took Tuesday off. Thursday we all had off. I took Friday off, and I'm like, what the heck? Like it's Saturday. I can
Yeah.
make this show. That's why I texted you last night late. I was like, wait a second. I'll be here. I'll make that show.
It's around that time of year where we start to forget what days, you just kind of know, like, do I have to
Yeah,
go to work today? No, I don't know what day of the week it is.
yeah, yeah.
Normally we have that, in the November, December. I think a lot of us had that early on this year. When the lockdown really started, a lot of us didn't know what day it was that worked, those
Yeah.
Monday through Fridays. But it's great to be here. Great to break down the whole week of sports that
Ooh-wee.
that we do. Once again, the only podcast on this network that breaks down everything on sports, at least that's noteworthy. And before we get too deep into that, let's just give you a rundown of how you can get in touch with us and how you can interact with us. Plenty of ways. I already talked about Coach Lupian at Portland76er on Twitter. Find myself at First Report, FERST Report. You can find Raider Jim at Raider Jim 1090 and at Brianna Winner at BWinner12. Though you can catch up with all of us. And then also we have a great little partnership with the Ramblin' and Gamblin' Sports Network. You can find them at and Gamblin'. And something that's really cool is a partnership that we have is it's Vigit, Vigit. It's essentially a a training ground or a practice field for your betting skills. It doesn't cost you any money. You sign up, you get 1,000 coins right away. If you use RNG20, you will get an extra 1,000 coins. So you will start with 2,000 coins, and you can bet whatever you want. There's all the lines are there. There's everything you could really think about betting. Take your chances there before you go into, the deep pool of actual money. And if you do win on Vigit, there are winners. You get some Amazon gift cards, some goodies there. So even if you do hit the jackpot there, it's really a no-lose situation. And let's take it just a little bit further. Find that little betting league down in the bottom. If you're using the mobile app, type in Off the Bench Podcast, join our league, see how you do against us. Same thing with the Ramblin' and Gamblin' Sports Network. They have the same thing there. So now it is time to dive into two Bs on a pod.
Mm-hmm.
And as we always do start, it is with our special teams our specialty teams in
Yeah.
that point. Yeah, I guess they are special teams, right? Special teams is a very big part of football and it's a very big part of betting as well. And myself, huge Eagle fan, Coach Lupian, a huge Saints fan. So we always take a minute to talk about our respective teams here on these Saturdays. It was an interesting week for the Saints. Obviously, no Drew Brees, going to be the life for a little bit. On this podcast, I think we were both kind of in agreement that it was going to be a bit of a 50-50.
Yeah.
Not so much. Taysom Hill, it is Taysom Hill's show. And wow, they have a huge game this week. Well, for them, seeding, the way they've been, the way the division's going, it's big for them. Now, Denver, not so much. Currently, the line was at 6.5. Yeah, 6.5, and the over-under is 43. Obviously, the Saints being favored there. But, Coach, what do you got for the Saints coming up this week against the Denver Broncos?
I think let's touch off on a little bit that you led into, and that was the snap count for Taysom Hill. Like, yeah, I'll be the first to admit when I'm wrong. And, when we come on these shows and we prognosticate, there's some opinion, there is some truth, there's a whole lot of facts, and then there's a whole kind of like guessing game, especially guessing games when it comes to replacing a Drew Brees or just a starting quarterback in the NFL, right? Like the old adage is, hey, there's 32 teams, there's 32 really good jobs And when you got to replace one with a backup guy, and he may not be number 33 on everyone's board, but there's something up in the air. Hey, you go with what you read, you go with what you hear, you go with you go with your gut. And boy, did Sean make everybody, not just me and you, everybody across the nation look wrong, because at the end of the day, I don't even know why I question this cat. I really don't. This dude's in the locker room getting down because he's got style and grace. I mean, just take that from Biggie. He's got style and grace.
Yeah.
I mean, he is the only coach on Jordan Brand. Hey, he's rocking the Jays every game. So, like, why should I question what he does um, throughout the week, leaving a whole lot of intrigue? But yeah, Taysom took the majority of the snaps, and the only other guy that took snaps behind under center that was Alvin Kamara, and that was out of the Wildcat.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we did not see Jameis, and I don't want to say rightfully so, because I still think Jameis has a solid career ahead of him. Right guidance, some consistency between head coach and or offensive coordinator throughout an entire career, because you could count him up on your hands in his 5-year career, including Sean and Carmichael as a Saints duo. This guy's had inconsistency with head coaches all career long, inconsistency with OCs all career long, and an inconsistent game all career long. So, kind of the numbers speak for his surroundings. But that's not to say that Taysom's leaps and bounds. Taysom is just 5 years uh, in the Saints offensive system more than Taysom, or more than Jameis. So, but what a game. Like, who would have thought he would come out and have a 108.7 passer rating, 18 for 23, throw for a touchdown, run for a touchdown. But that's going against a weak Atlanta soft zone, where they didn't know what to game for themselves, and was it going to be Jameis or was it going to be Taysom? Do we keep the underneath open and protect the outsides? She's 18 pass attempts. That's more than his entire NFL career. So you don't know what the kid could really do. He laid one out, and then it was a little short, and Emmanuel Sanders had to come back and get it. So, this week at a scrappy Denver, mile high weather, maybe clear, but it could be cold and balmy. That just doesn't suit well for a dome team, especially when you haven't faced the cold. And I'm not even talking sleet or rain or snow. It's just cold. Your timing's off. Your muscles are a little tighter. And then you look back at what Denver defensively did against Tua and the Dolphins, and proving us and a whole lot of other prognosticators around the nation too wrong, and stifle the Dolphins, where we were touting the Miami's defense, Denver's defense equal to. Yeah, they're facing a rookie quarterback, very mobile rookie quarterback, and very questionable offensive skill players for Miami. Not the case here with the Saints. I understand why the number is 6, 6.5. I do think that this is a game that's going to stay under the 43.5, just because you know what, you've had a week to prepare for what to expect with Taysom, and I'm not going to go out there and say, oh, that was just Sean showing some basic stuff, like in preseason, what they do in preseason, show some basic offensive formations and then work out. Now, you know what, like we're too far in the season for Spagnuolo and his defensive team, and they got some dynamic defensive players in that defense to say, you know what, we got to play it straight up. Don't expect the gadgetry. Don't expect a lot of trick plays or whatever. Let's game plan for what they've shown. They've shown a lot of wildcat or Taysom, running the ball out of the backfield. Well, we saw Alvin Kamara line up and take those snaps, and now we got to prepare for Alvin Kamara taking those direct snaps and running. We got to prepare for, and it's still, Taysom's in there, and that when they bring that guy in motion and overload the left or the right, he's just going to tuck it and run. And sure enough, he tucks it and runs, and nobody seems to have stopped it week 12 into. So, I think they have a pretty good game plan for what to expect. And, those guys get after the quarterback. Well, we'll see if they could keep him contained and whatnot. I did mention last week's show, Taysom has put the ball on the ground, though. And he did. He put the ball on the ground again this week after breaking off a very nice run, breaking a couple of tackles, making a move, putting his shoulder down on somebody, but then it just pops out. So, that's something that he's shown to be consistently doing. That's a little bit of a worry. -6.5. I think you could give Denver's scrappy defense that respect and say, okay, well, they're going to keep them within the game. It's at home. You give the home team 3.5, right? 3.5, the defense good enough for, I'm gonna confirm under 43.5.
Yeah.
It's not like last week where the numbers dropped like from 6.5 with Atlanta all the way to 3 up until we recorded, right?
Yep.
And wow, did the Saints put the hurt down on Atlanta and prove everybody wrong? But they've been proving us wrong all season long, and again, they win ugly. That's something that I said on our Wednesday show, and they're not afraid to or shy away or egotistic enough to try to make it look like a total domination. They're a scrappy bunch, and it could easily be Will Lutz with that final field goal with 7 minutes left, or it could be Will Lutz with 7 seconds left, or it could be like another 28, 20, whatever the Saints and Atlanta score was. It could be another double-digit spread. You just never know what to expect. They are traveling out west. This is a non-divisional, non-conference game, but they all have value at this point. Let's go Saints -6, under 43.
Yeah. I just actually checked the weather. It's gonna be a cold day. It's gonna be about 37. There's gonna be about 6-mile-an-hour wind, but you're talking late November in Denver, and you're a dome team. This is about as best or as good as you can get. For them. I think obviously we talked about Taysom Hill and Drew Brees going down, and with the Saints, it's always focused on the offense.
Yeah.
But I cannot tell you how incredibly impressed I have been with the Saints defense. And look, I'm a huge Malcolm Jenkins fan, but I am not going to sit here and say that Malcolm Jenkins is the difference, because guess what? He's been on that team before, and the defense wasn't like this.
Yeah.
They are so physical. They are actually the strength of this team. And I've said it once, I've said it a million times. The NFL, the one thing that everybody is scared of, everyone's nightmare, is Drew Brees with a defense. He's unbeatable. Now, I understand we're not there right now, but Taysom Hill compared to Jameis Winston, I think the biggest thing is obviously decision-making. We know we talked about Taysom putting it on the ground, but it's not the turnover type situation we see with Jameis. And also what I think we see with Taysom Hill is a lack of a quarterback ego. And what I mean with that is all these players, if you're at the NFL level, you all have an ego. You have to. You've just been one of the best at whatever.
You better, or you're not in the league very long.
Yeah, exactly. Even no matter where you were playing, you were highly sought after.
Right.
And sometimes with quarterbacks, I think we're seeing it with Lamar Jackson. I think all of a sudden we go, wow, what a great mobile quarterback. And he goes, whoa, I'm a strong arm quarterback. No, Lamar, you're not. And it's fine. It's okay. You won MVP by being a mobile quarterback. Yeah. Now you're trying to be a strong arm quarterback. And I think Taysom Hill knows, look, 5 years ago, I was a gunner on the punt team. Now I'm starting quarterback. That's where he is on the quarterback spectrum, if you will. He doesn't care. Snap me the ball, get me on the field, whatever I need to do to make my team win. Not saying Jameis wouldn't do stuff like that, but it's just a different mindset for a guy who has done those things and hasn't been the number one overall pick, the expected franchise quarterback wherever he's gone. So I think there's just a lack of, I could just go out and be Taysom Hill and everyone's just going to go, great job, as opposed to, maybe Jameis Winston trying to early in his career become more of a Taysom Hill and run, but say, you know what? No, I want to be a strong arm quarterback. And then we are where we are. So I think the Saints with Taysom Hill, I'm the first one to admit I was wrong, or there were a lot of people who were wrong. It was not just this podcast that thought it was going to be 50-50.
I'm making that clear across the nation.
There were some blue check mark people that are on 5 minutes before the game start. They're on ESPN. Okay. That made the same predictions. Okay. So Sean Payton got us all. He punked us all. And you know what? He didn't punk us all. He just made the right decision. And that's why he's there. That's why he's in those locker rooms. He's at those practices or whatever the hell they're doing these days. And he made the right decision. And I mean, 9 times out of 10, Sean Payton is going to make the right decision.
I'm glad you brought up the defense, because time and time again, and I think what's going on in social media and the news surrounding the squad at the time is neglectful too, because it was the loss of Drew Brees and who the starter was, and the return of Michael Thomas and MVP Alvin Kamara's MVP status, and you kind of neglect the defense, and they kind of like it that way. Mm-hmm. But here's something that is making the stomachs of every defensive player in that locker room kind of crave. This could be the 100th straight game where they keep a running back under 100 yards. Wow. The 100th straight game.
That's crazy.
No one's talking about that. I almost forgot about it myself. I wanted to bring it up on Wednesday, and it slipped my mind. So I'm like, oh, good. Thank goodness we have Saturday, Mr. First. I don't know if I can make Saturday.
Yeah, put this in. Just make a little video about this, and then just put it in there one way or another. That is That's crazy. I would have got through 30 teams before I got to the Saints, and that's not anything that's been done this year. It's just they're generally a leaky defense.
And over the past several years since we met.
Yeah.
The defensive line, the offensive line have been the strengths, but the defensive line, the rotations of these defensive linemen that they're producing, that they're putting out, they're letting quality guys go, and they're bringing guys back and making them quality guys again. It's a testament to what they're doing coaching wise, especially that D-line coach. I know this cat he was over at NC State the year we met. That's when the Saints signed him.
Yep.
And he had cats on his defensive line at NC State that were first rounders. I can't remember who they are right off the top of my head, but these guys it was before Clowney. It was the cat before, and I forgot.
Manny Lawson, maybe? I don't know if Manny Lawson.
No, bigger name. Bigger name. Yeah. Damn. But he had cats. He had players at NC State, and then the Saints were like, we need this guy. And since they brought this guy in, the defensive line has been phenomenal. It was just Cam Jordan and the rest. Now it's Cam Jordan and the crew, and all those guys are flying around, and they made great draft picks. And this guy's rotating fresh legs in every second, third down, and they're putting pressure on cats. And hey, our record's speaking for itself. But yeah, 100th straight game. There's that chance to keep 100 straight game running back under 100 yards. I'm excited for it. That defense, I'm sure, is hungry for it, and I'm sure Denver's defense is hungry to get at these guys. And we'll go into it after your Eagles report, but I want to allude to what the NFC race is like, because there were some huge results last week that have put the Saints in the position they are right now. So
definitely, yeah. Unfortunately, we do have to talk about those lowly Eagles who for 2.5 weeks up until Thanksgiving, somehow, some way, we're continuing to lose, but hold on to first place. Well, Thanksgiving, that all came to an end. Washington finally takes over in a very impressive win, a very, dominating.
That team, man.
There's something about them.
They don't have a name, but they have that team.
Yeah.
They have that attitude right now.
And they go out. They obviously beat the Cowboys. For the Eagles, going back to last week, played the Browns. They had their chances as usual. I feel like just about every game this year, the Eagles have had their chances, probably more so than they should have. Some really, once again, bad decisions from Carson Wentz. There was a throw, ended going back for a pick six. And a lot of the chatter I'm hearing, and I agree with it, but I do feel like it's a bit of a cop-out. Hearing a lot of people making excuses for Carson Wentz because of the coaching staff. And I understand why, but it's not the case. Doug Peterson isn't in his ear saying, oh, force that ball into triple coverage. Ooh, hold on to the ball for 40 seconds instead of throwing the ball away like a responsible adult. Instead, Carson tries to make these fantastic plays. We are 12 weeks into a season where you are the most turnover-prone quarterback in the league. I think it's time to realize it's not forcing this year. This is not 2016 Carson Wentz. And you were talking about rotating defensive lines. That was honestly one of the biggest positives for that Super Bowl winning Eagles team, was their ability to go 8 or 9 deep in that defensive line and stop teams from doing those things. And right now the Eagles they're adrift. And I think we've all in life seen people or had people in our life that have been very fortunate because of the company they keep. Because while they're below average, the people that they're around, they're well below average. So this person looks great. That's essentially what the winner of the NFC East is going to be. One who sucks less than anybody else. And right now, I don't know how you get away from either Washington or the Giants.
Washington
Eagles.
Who?
Yeah. Sorry.
Washington who?
Oh, no. Did I say it? I didn't know. I'm trying to get through a whole show without doing it. He almost did it. I'm going to put you on mute here in a second. Anyway, but no, those are the two best teams in the division right now. And, a month ago, that would have just been crazy. Now we look forward to, looking forward. I'm not looking forward to Monday, but as we look forward to Monday, it is, of course, Monday Night Football. The Seahawks on the road in Philadelphia. Some news coming out, Lane Johnson out for the year. It's tough, but he's been playing that question. He hasn't been healthy all year. This is the right call.
Who's going to protect on that right side?
They're moving Peters into the guard position. They're going to, they got Seyumalu back. They have Mailata, who's going to be there as well. Peters, unfortunately, they're trying to protect him. He's constantly, I feel like I talk about it every show, that he cannot get through an entire game healthy. And I do think they're helping him by putting him in the guard position.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be tough for this team now offensively, but in order to beat the Seahawks, not cover, because I don't think they're going to cover, but for the Eagles, as currently the line has moved to 5.5 for Seattle, the over-under has dropped down to 49. It was 53 when we did the pod on Wednesday, so dropping heavily. And the Eagles have to get back to running the football. When they were at their best against the Browns, almost to the point where in the first quarter, they looked like they were going to really put it to the Browns. They were running Miles Sanders. They were running Corey Clement. They were running Boston Scott. And then they get into the red zone and they just start to throw the ball. And unfortunately, if you put the ball in Carson Wentz's hands enough, he's going to put it in the other team's hands. Is exactly what happened.
See on the tape.
The Eagles have to run the football. They have to run the football against Seattle. If they're able to do that and stick to it, I think they have a chance. This defense has been watching film of Carson Wentz, and that they're not the Legion of Doom or the Legion of Boom anymore. They're not a dominant defense, but they still got some players out there that are feasting on some of those throws that Carson Wentz is making. I'll talk about the NFC East playoff picture, and then we'll pass it over to Coach where you can talk about the NFC South. But I kind of alluded to it. Currently, It's essentially who's going to win a game outside of the division. That whoever does that is probably going to win the division. The Eagles, as bad as they are, everything goes their way. It's going to come down to Washington versus Philadelphia in the final week. Whoever wins that is in it. And we all laugh about that tie with Cincinnati, but that might be the difference. That might be the reason the Eagles make it in to the playoffs. I really do hope that the Saints keep on keeping on and the Bucks fall apart. By the time we play the Saints, I think it's week 14, week 15. They're not really playing for anything. Maybe they say, hey, Jameis,
we're playing,
give it a go. And maybe we can steal one, although I still don't think we're better than a Jameis-led Saints, but that's a story for another day. This is a team for the Eagles that there's nothing I can say. There's nothing I can preview that is positive until they put something out on the field that makes me feel good about this team. I'm taking all the time the other way. 5 points is an easy lay. I know that the Seahawks have struggled on the road, but we're not going to have fans again. I believe Philadelphia has shut things down again. They are no longer allowing fans in, just kind of the way it's going. But even then, we only had, I think 10,000 fans. It wasn't that massive of a deal. The weather will be more of an issue, but I mean, we're talking about a team that plays up in Seattle. Unless you're in a blizzard, I don't think it'll be that big of a deal. So I don't expect weather to be a factor. The Eagles have to run the football. They have to keep this a 20-17 game. I don't know how they do it other than running the football very, very well, keeping this to each team gets 6 possessions. Other than that, I don't think it's possible now. For Washington, the Giants, and the Cowboys are pretty much done, but Washington, their destiny is in their hands. They went out. They are the NFC least champs. And I don't see how that doesn't happen. They look really good. They looked really good on Thanksgiving. It's a young team. Riverboat Ron is probably the best coach in this division. I'm not betting against them. We're going to laugh about, whoever wins the 2020 NFC least, but I would not be surprised if the Skins get hot. I did it. If Washington gets hot, and wins maybe a playoff game. Who knows? I don't know who they get, but you never know. If that is a Washington team that makes it in and they get on a roll, they could maybe surprise some people. But I almost got all the way through without saying it. But
and you only said half the name.
Yeah,
so
I know. Right?
Sense, I'll work it over with Brianna and Raider Jim. But I'm glad you brought up Riverboat Ron, because I think I mentioned it on Wednesday. I said when you look at the coaching, right, in that division, he is the best coach in that division. You got a Mike Mularkey, who Aaron Rodgers is feeling really good about. I told you so, guys. I told you so. And then you got a Doug Peterson, whom I've always liked myself, but you hear media, you hear the rumblings in the lockers and probably in Philly about the impact Frank Reich had more on that team especially offensively, and for Carson. Then you got Riverboat Ron, who did what he did, getting his Carolina team to a Super Bowl. And then you have Joe Judge, right, over in New York. He's a Belichick disciple. Belichick disciples just don't have a lot of cred after leaving Belichick. Brian Flores is going to try to prove that statement wrong for against me and for himself. But then you got to give, every time you play that Washington team and go against that coach, you got to at least give them already 2 points, at least 2 points. And then you give them the home field advantage. There's 2 + 3. So that's already a 5-point difference, based on who you're coaching against and the team that you're facing in DC. So you're already at the disadvantage for those NFC least teams going in. That's a tough battle. It's a tough sled. And you got a quarterback, and Bonita's own, San Diego's own Alex Smith, Helix's own Alex Smith, coming back from what he came back from and leading that team to where they're at right now. And he's a smart quarterback. According to Harbaugh, he won't get that team from here to here, but he's going to keep that team from going down here because of his is intellect. You know, as far as his physical incapabilities, hey man, just coming back from what he came back from and doing what he's doing, you find ways to compensate your game in other facets. You know, and I picked the Cowboys to cover the spread for Thanksgiving, and boy, was I wrong. But I also picked the over, and they put up numbers.
Yeah.
You know, both teams. So, um, yeah, it's gonna be a fun race for that final playoff spot, and that defense is coming around.
Yeah.
Right? I'll give you the props because you said Chase Young from like pre no preseason shows, and it was about Chase Young and how scary he is and what he might do, you know. And sure enough, like he's got that defense flying along with Riverboat Ron. So, whoo.
Yeah.
But you know, let's talk about the NFC,
Yeah.
the conference in itself. You mentioned about the NFC least, talking about it's going to take a win against a non-conference opponent. Well, I think it's going to take a non-loss against a non-conference opponent, right? For the Saints to maintain that 1 seed. I mean, look what happened to Green Bay. Like Green Bay lost, and they were percentage points ahead of the Saints for that 1 seed, and then they lose, right? And the Saints jump them, and no one expected that loss out of conference. You know, it's going to be who's going to maintain throughout. You know, me honestly, I hate the bye week. I think teams come in softer the next game. You know, yeah, you may be healthier yet, but you know, it hasn't worked out for the Saints. Those are my guys. I just got to be brutally honest about it. So
I think for the Saints, when you have Saints Packers 1-2,
yeah,
I think the Saints will say, I don't even care if you give us a bye. You know what we want? That roof over our head. We ain't going to Lambeau in January. Nobody wants to go up north. And that's what the Eagles have even done in certain situations. They haven't been the better team, but sometimes they just got the Saints on a really ugly day in January in Philadelphia. And believe me, Green Bay is just the same, and they want that home field advantage because there is no roof. So, but yeah, only one team getting a bye is interesting. But I really do agree with you. Unless Drew Brees isn't ready until division weekend, the bye almost softens you up. We all get to see. Now this week it'll be 3, or this year it'll be 3 games, but we get to see those 2 games in the conference, and we kind of fall in love with those 2 teams and forget about the other 2 teams and what they've done. And that always seems to be the case. But yeah, great bring up by the NFC playoff picture. It does look to be a 2-team race up there at the top, and then everybody kind of having individual races in their division. Definitely the West. The West is going to be a lot of fun in the NFC. It would be a little bit more fun if the Niners were a bit more competitive, but that is what it is.
They're going to make it happen this weekend.
I think so.
I call that. I believe I called it. Let me check my numbers. Oh, wait, where'd it go? I did call the Niners. The Niners +7.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I also said they could just cover the spread and lose.
Oh, too. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. This is that's a heavy spread to lay down.
Yeah.
But moving on to a little basketball. We talked last week about San Diego State, about the college basketball season starting. Obviously, the Aztecs had a humongous opening showdown. The only really way that they could get UCLA down to Viejas Arena was to say, hey, there'll be no fans. Well, it didn't matter. They absolutely dominate UCLA by 20. And then 2 days later, same numbers, but definitely not as dominant a performance. They beat UC Irvine. San Diego State will, I expect, to be in the top 25 in, I believe, either tomorrow or whenever that drops, but I expect them to be in it. And starting off 2-0, looking ahead, they have 2 games against Colorado State. I don't know what the schedule quite said. It said both of them, they didn't have the little @ sign, so I don't know if both of those are in San Diego. I'm not sure, but I do expect them to play against Colorado State. That's what the schedule says. Still a lot up in the air. They still have another showdown, I believe, with Arizona State. But once again, I don't know what schedule I'm looking at.
That's a tough team.
I really don't know if I'm looking at an old schedule or like an actual revised, but that's just what
team.
yeah. Anyways, San Diego State, I do know for a fact they are 2-0. And they get 2 wins against 2 different opponents, but 2 very good opponents. What were your thoughts on San Diego State? Really, I mean, a great week for San Diego State. Let's just put it that way.
First off, okay. I don't know how a team finishes 6th in the nation with a possibly 2 seed in the NCAA tournament and not at least get a little kiss or a hug or even a dap into the top 25 preseason rankings. It's just, it's utterly mind-blowing because other than Gonzaga, San Diego State has been the best and most consistent team along the West Coast. By far, bar none. Teams like UCLA, well, let's just say UCLA in particular, have been shunning away from facing this San Diego State team for years. Before Fisher retired, for years. Having Steve Alford, he knew not to go into the arena or invite the Aztecs. He knew. And then you have Mick Cronin, whom I love. I think he was amazing at Cincinnati, giving the complexity and the territory that the University of Cincinnati covers as far as recruits go. He's battling Big East teams and Big 12 teams and all that for recruits. And for him to do what he did there is just a big like props to him. I've always liked him. He's a defensive minded coach. And that's the way I look at myself. But he's also one that talks about holding kids accountable and life lessons. And that's commendable in itself. But, you know, unfairly, I think the Aztecs get shunned and rightfully so, giving the streak that the Bruins were on at the end of the season. They were going to be a tournament team. Yeah, the people who make those rankings put them in there at 22. Fine, but like you're going to tell me San Diego State team doesn't deserve 25? I don't even look at the others. They may have been in others, but you know, UCLA comes down to the Mesa and the Aztec looks like the Aztecs from last year. Yeah, they don't have the names like Malachi Flynn or KJ Fagan or even Yanni Wetzel, but they have guys that played quite well. And schematically, like when you're expecting a team to put up more offensive numbers and they pick it up with their defense, like that's when you know it's a whole lot about schemes and intensity and discipline and what they do at in practices that separated these two teams. I don't care what those guys said on CBS Sports about UCLA missing so and so and so and so and blah 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 blah. You said it last year. You know, when the Aztecs didn't have Malachi and he was the number 29th overall pick, and you know, you guys ignored them last year, and it's probably because the Mountain West is a joke of a conference. Yeah, I get it, and you're not getting money from the Mountain West like you do from the Pac-12 or any other conference. But man, like show a little bit of love. They just, sorry, those guys from UCLA weren't 22 points better. Yeah. Right? If anything,
they didn't lose on a last-second three-point. They lost by 20. The last 5 minutes of that game was running the clock out, folks.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. But you saw that Aztecs' best offense was their intensity on defense because they went on a number of stretches. First, there was an 8-0 stretch in the first half that got them tied in the lead, and then there was a stretch to open up the second half where defensively they were just hogging those guys from UCLA. And they had no answers. There was like a stonewalled Mick Cronin, like, what do I got to do? And at that point, it's not what you got to do. It's you got to wait for that wave of Aztecs to take the intensity down just so that you could get a breather because those guys were suffocating them defensively, hitting shots, moving the ball around. And I think moving the ball around is like the number one key to it, because you saw bigs making the high-low pass. You saw guards posting up down underneath. And as soon as they felt the double, they hit the open big on the other end. They passed the ball to the open guy in the corner. I mean, talk about moving the ball efficiently for that extra shot. Me and you joked around about the shooting percentage, and we'll get on that against UCI. But at some point, this Aztec basketball team is going to be top 15.
Yeah,
they are top 25 after next week. Sorry, they could flip flop with UCLA right now and be at 22, and everyone across the nation is going to be like, rightfully so. But they're a top 15 team. I don't know if I could go any higher than that, because I haven't seen anyone else, but there were some close games. Bryant yesterday almost beat Syracuse. And talk about moral victories, because you don't really count them, or they don't count on the record books. But Bryant won that game, and Syracuse found a way to pull it out more than anything. But Aztecs UCI, UCI is a team, another tournament team. They're going to be picked to win the Big West, and they have a nice balance along the floor, guard wise, height wise, size wise, big wise. Their bigs were nice. They moved the ball around too. It was a tight game early on until the depth and the intensity and the defensive discipline of the Aztecs was able to spread the lead. And all of a sudden it went from like an 8-point game to a 15-point game to a 23-point game. And you're like, wow. And we saw some kids that didn't play against UCLA play against UC Irvine, like a Lamont Butler, and who's the other kid? I had his name, but he's another guard. I think he's out of LA too, that hit a couple of shots at the end. Yeah, garbage time, but you know what? Like, get those kids in and play. And you see a guy like the transfer, Bernard Tomiak, hit a three, and you hear this guy has a nice stroke, and he's hitting threes on cats, and you're like, whoa, he can really stroke it. So there's a lot of weapons that this team has. Keyshawn Johnson had a stretch of his own. I think Keyshawn Johnson went on a 9-0 run on his own, hitting a couple threes. He got that oop from Terrell Gomes. He got that oop. Then he got fouled on a dunk and then hit the free throws, and then he hit a three afterwards. It's like the Keyshawn Johnson show. But, like, you can't question what the Aztecs have been the last 20 some odd years. They find ways to win with not superior like talent, right? These are like the underrated kids, and you mix in kids that are like 4 stars with guys that aren't 4 stars, and then you put your scheme in, and you have guys that fit the bill as far as what you do defensively and can hit open shots. Man, like, the recipe of success has been there for 20 plus years. You got to give it to them. And then to open up the season 2-0.
Yeah.
Wow.
I do know that, UCLA, there was a Kentucky transfer and whatever, their big man was out, blah, blah, blah. And like we said, 20 points. I don't think they make that up. Yeah. San Diego State was playing a game without the, player who was drafted 29th overall. I know it's different, but still, that's a player they were missing. Are they going to get him back? No, but that was a player that they were missing. I think this San Diego State team, another thing, the depth of San Diego State we talked about, and admittedly, I did not get a chance to see the UC Irvine game. It was a little further down the rabbit hole than I was able to go on the media side, but I looked at the box score this morning, and until I got to the turnover section, I was questioning how San Diego State won the game, because if you just look at the numbers, it was ugly. I mean, they allowed UC Irvine to shoot 48%, but then you realize, it was 20 shots less than San Diego State because they forced 25 turnovers.
Yeah.
But also for San Diego State, they're shooting. I don't know what their numbers were for UCLA, but against UC Irvine, they shot 40% from the three. That's going to play. You play good defense and shoot 40% from three, you are probably going to have another 30-4 season.
Yeah.
So it's really, really exciting to see what San Diego State's doing. And I'm glad you brought up Syracuse because they're kind of, one thing about Syracuse, or the players that go to Syracuse, they know how to play the 2-3 zone. You just know that. Well, guess what? Same thing the players that go to San Diego State. They can play lockdown defense. You don't know a whole lot about anything else about them. They can do other things, and we'll find out about them. But just coming on campus, if first it was Steve Fisher and now Brian Dutcher, if they recruited these guys, they can get down in a defensive stance and make things very difficult for an offensive team. And that helps out. Like I said, you wonder how can you shoot 40% and the other team shoots almost 50% and you win by 20? Well, it's because you force 15 more turnovers than the other team. Yeah. That'll do it. So,
starting out 2-0 against UCLA and UCI, it's something that I thought was very, within their grasp, being a homer. Hey, but, I've divulged enough time watching them and, knowing and checking up on whom they're recruiting and whatnot to say, you know what, I feel really confident about against this game, especially when you got an unranked team that's playing a ranked team and you feel slighted some way. Like, it just doesn't bode well, their next game will be December 2nd, Wednesday, December 2nd. Okay. They are playing a local, they're probably NAIA team, St. Catherine's.
That's right.
I really don't like this game being played just in general. Like, why waste the date? I get it. You want to promote local schools here and you play them, but man, like, risk reward, it doesn't mean much to me. But good luck to St. Catherine's. Way to be, San Diego State. December 5th, Saturday is more of the game that we're looking forward to against Colorado State. I'm sorry. That's the football team.
Yeah, okay, maybe that's what it. Yeah, so
that's what it is.
Yeah, there's all kinds of craziness. That's why, they have back-to-back games, and I was like, that's going to be odd that they're playing back-to-back. But yeah, the way they put the schedule, they don't tell you that one's football and one's. But yeah, thank you, ESPN.
Right. So let's see here. We got Bruins and Eaters, Firebirds from St. Catherine's. Yeah. Yeah, I see what you're looking at.
Yeah, it's like back-to-back games with Colorado State and then at Arizona State.
See that Arizona State team?
Yeah, that's going to be a big one. Villanova, I actually watched Villanova yesterday or Thanksgiving. Yeah. One of those days beat Arizona State in their whatever championship, whatever preseason tournament.
Their bubble.
Yeah, the bubble champs, whatever, one of the 4 preseason tournaments going off. But that's going to be a big test. Obviously, you can't overlook definitely St. Catherine's. That would be devastating. But you definitely can't overlook Colorado State, either side, either on the basketball floor or the football field. And that's a perfect way to kind of transition to the football field. And folks, look, if you're talking about the football field, you're talking about COVID. I don't care if it's football or college football or NFL. We were, I don't want to say robbed, that's very dramatic, but I think all of us football fans were looking at that Thanksgiving night game as, okay, this is the game that's going to be interesting. It has playoff implications. And then, nope, it was announced that there was a outbreak with the Ravens. They moved it to Monday and then eventually settled on Tuesday. Now, what I question is, and we've since learned that Lamar Jackson was one of the players that got COVID. If you are the San Francisco 49ers, how are you sitting and watching and not just on the phone with the NFL trying to get a straight answer from them? How you had a COVID outbreak 2 days before your Thursday night game, and NFL told you, tough cookies, you better go find 52 players that can dress. And we talked about it. Maybe that's what the NFL is going to make these teams do, which, look, I mean, may not be the most proactive thing, but it'll teach these teams to be a little more smarter. Apparently, it's all fun and games unless Lamar Jackson gets COVID, because everything got shut down. They have moved that Steelers-Ravens game to Tuesday. So let's see, it looks like maybe the 1st or the 31st. I'm terrible with months, but it will be on Tuesday. So that's what we're expecting to see. Lamar Jackson will not play. And yeah, RG3 going to make his not debut, but he will be coming out of that tunnel. And I'll tell you this right now, I liked Baltimore in that game on Wednesday. Nope. Give me Pittsburgh. I'm sure the line has changed heavily. I don't even know if it's on the board actually now that I look at it.
I don't know, but RG3 came from where?
Baylor and then Washington.
That's right. Nice.
Yeah, you tried to get me to say the name. I got you.
No.
But no. But also not only there with the NFL, we also look at some of our local teams. I mean, two of the helmets that I have right here on my desk. USC supposed to play Colorado this week. Nope.
Yeah,
USC gets an outbreak. But don't worry, San Diego State is now going to play Colorado today, Saturday, November 28th. USC has their own outbreak going on. Their game against Washington State next week is also apparently up in the air. And if that becomes the case, USC will officially be ineligible to play in the college football playoff. Oregon last night lost to Oregon State in a stunner. So it looks like the Pac-12 will once again miss out on the playoffs. College football. Oh, I like that one. I like that helmet a lot.
Yeah.
It does look like the Pac-12 will miss out. And for USC, once again, I don't know the exact things. And this virus is very contagious. And I always kind of tell people to calm down when you hear that there's an outbreak. It's not like these kids are walking around licking doorknobs. But at the same time, do I believe that they're sitting at home in a bumble? No. You know, they're college kids. They're college kids. I'm just going to leave it at that. But at the same time, these are college athletes that know that their actions are putting other people at risk and sacrificing the seniors or the juniors who want to up their draft stock. They're sacrificing their options by being inconsiderate. Let's just be honest. Hopefully USC can get this under control. Going back to the Steelers-Ravens situation with Lamar Jackson, I haven't really heard anybody ask it. Anybody at least that has a blue check mark. I'd love for the NFL to answer it for me, but I don't think they're going to answer my question about it. But how is it that the 49ers have to play? But I know the answer to this. It's because Lamar Jackson tested positive. I know. But why is that the case? Yet the Ravens, they bend over backwards. They are about to reschedule 2 games because the Ravens were supposed to play this coming Thursday as well. So if you play on Tuesday, you can't play Thursday. You can't just only have one day off. So they have to keep moving these things. They're bending over backwards while the Niners, had 3 construction workers pretty much play that Thursday night game because they had nobody. So there's a lot of drama. And to be honest, this is what you asked for. This is what happens when you half-ass these protocols, when you don't have a full system in place that's concrete and we're not playing by ear. Oh, who was tested positive? Oh, a backup defensive lineman and 2 wide receivers. You guys can play. Oh, the starting quarterback? No, we got to shut you down. It's a crazy double standard. I understand why, but just don't be so obvious about it.
Please.
Yeah.
Hey, we're asking nicely.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. And I want to see the best players on the field as well. But guess what? Joe Burrow, he's out for the year. Are you going to cancel the Bengals season because he's out? Drew Brees is out. Are the Saints now down? And I know I'm being dramatic here, but I'm frustrated. I don't like the Niners, but I think they have to be looking at themselves like, hey, we were in the Super Bowl last year. It's not like we're the forgotten, Jacksonville Jaguars. This is a one of the blue collar franchises, and they just kind of said, we don't care about Nick Mullins anyway. It's very frustrating. I would need answers if I was a Niners fan, a Niners player, anything. But first and foremost, and I always have to, when I go on these rants, I need to kind of back it up. The most important thing is everyone involved is healthy. stays healthy, nothing bad happens. I'm getting ahead of myself, and that is the first part of it. Humanity first, sports second. So hopefully everyone gets healthy. Hopefully everyone does the right thing to get out of quarantine or get healthy. But selfishly, we want it so that we can see some football and the best players on football. And really for USC, this is their best chance to make the college football playoff. I mean, if you're going to have to outduel Cincinnati and BYU, I like my chances there, but not now. I mean, if you can only play 5-6 games, it's not good enough. So we shall see. Any thoughts on what we've been seeing? Really, football, I will say this: college basketball has its own problem as well. You can go look those up as well, but football is the one that's right in front of our face right now.
You know, like honestly, COVID is making an impact all across the world. Safety first, but don't get caught up. NFL, don't get caught up in a place where you're pushing games or delaying games, and we get a backstop of things, because then the player health and safety, non-COVID related, really gets affected more than anything. But I'm looking forward to another week of college football starting today, and NFL football. I'm just kind of happy that there is no week stoppage. It's something we all got to get used to.
I will also throw it out. The NFL has, I didn't fully dive into this article or what, but excuse me, apparently because of everything that's going on, NFL facilities will now be closed on Monday and Tuesdays. So no matter what that coach wants, no matter how he feels. Now I don't understand how that would work for the Eagles on Monday. I mean, I have to imagine, if Kelsey wants to go in and lift some weights 3 or 4 hours before the game, I don't think, they say, no, you got to go find a 24-hour or, I don't know how that works, but yeah. Right. So NFL facilities have been shut down. No questions asked Monday and Tuesday. There will be no people in facilities. You'll have to watch film remotely. So once again, do I think that's just going to, does COVID just not come around Wednesday through Sunday? Whatever, okay, fine. It's a step in the right direction, but anyways, as we finish up another fantastic show, we do have some unanimous picks, consensus picks I had jotted down from our Wednesday show. And if you do need to, little refresher, we did have Houston. That was and the over. That was a consensus, and it hit both of them. So that tells you where we are. We do like the Las Vegas Raiders to cover the 3 and go over 55.5 over Atlanta. Buffalo to cover the 5.5 and keep under 53.5 against the LA Chargers. Kansas City -3 to cover against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who have struggled against good teams. Let's be honest.
Please.
And the Indianapolis Colts. Look, myself and Coach Lupian, huge Mike Vrabel fans. So for us to be consensus on the other way, that tells you something. We like Indy -3, under 51 against Tennessee. And then Raider Jim is involved in that as well, too. If you don't know anything about Raider Jim, make sure you go back and listen to our Wednesday podcast or myself and Raider Jim's podcast about horse racing on Call to Post. But those are our consensus picks to make you some money tomorrow. And then keep an eye on all of our Twitters. We drop some little nuggets here and there, especially Raider Jim. Once again, Raider Jim 1090. But Coach Lupian at Portland 76er 109 or at Portland 76er. What are your final thoughts for another fantastic show? 2 Bs on a pod.
First I want to put out a couple of things. First off, thanks to you for getting up so early to get and do this. But you brought up Viget earlier in the show. I want to thank the guys at Viget for notifying me that I got a bonus 10 points. Why? When you give betting advice or dish out angles on sports, we give you coins. If your comments are interesting, fun, extra coins are added. Give good advice or be fun, make coins. I commented on the USC Colorado game. I said, this game has been canceled and USC has been replaced by SDSU. Plus 10. Hey, well, shoot. Viget, you know what? A week ago, I mentioned that the San Diego State-Fresno State game was canceled prior to. I want that 10 points too. So make sure we tag these guys. I want them to hear us and hear me. And hey, 10 points is going to take me a long way with this app.
You know, it's funny.
You know?
I saw the because it is really cool. It's a very social. So they'll show the game and then you can comment. You can go back and forth with people. And I saw the San Diego State Fresno, and this was up on like Thursday, and it's been canceled for a little while. And it's okay. I'm not bashing them. There's a lot of things going on, a lot of things to keep track of. But I was gonna do what you did, and sure enough, I see Brandon Lupian the first comment. I absolutely loved it. And then there were other people commenting like, "Oh, Fresno State," and I'm like, "No, just look at what Brandon had to say. The game has been canceled.
It's canceled."
So great call there. Yes, I did see that. That's good to know. I did not know that you get some little bonus coins to and once again, there is no minimum. I mean, obviously one coin, but there is no minimum on those. You don't need to bet 100 coins. I did that for a little while and realized, oh, hey, I can go a little less than that. But it's a great fantastic app, easy to use, really, really fun. And they do a lot of things like you log on and they'll tell you about, hey, the line has dropped 2 points in the last 4 hours. What do you think? Just little things like that. So make sure you check it out at Vigit, Vigit. Was that all you got there, Coach?
That's all I got, and I'm looking forward to another wonderful weekend of college football and NFL football. Go Saints, go Eagles. And thank you again. So
yeah, thank you. And thank all of you out there for listening. It's always an absolute pleasure to wake up on a Saturday. It's a little earlier for me, but it's a great way to get your Saturday rolling. Absolutely. Get the juices flowing, and the adrenaline kicks in, and get a chance to talk with Coach Lupian. You never ever want to turn that down. So thank you to you, Coach. Thank you to all of you out there listening, and make sure you like and subscribe, reach out, follow us on Vigit, follow us on Twitter. Make sure that you get in touch with us. Let us know how we're doing. And so thanks again, everybody. Now it's time for y'all to go wash your hands and stop hating, everybody. We'll talk to you next week.
Stop hating.